You looked at the situation and said, "This is it. I'm done. There's no way I can recover from this." Life threw a punch you weren't expecting. You didn't just fall, you shattered, and somewhere in the wreckage, you started believing the lie that your story was finished. But I came to tell you something powerful. God doesn't write comeback stories halfway. The enemy wants you to think that your failure is final, that your heartbreak is permanent, that your mistake is your identity. But what if I told you that your setback is actually the setup for your perfect comeback? Because the perfect comeback never starts from comfort. It starts in the valley. It begins where things look hopeless, where your strength is gone, where your name has been dragged, your faith has been tested, and you're questioning everything. That's where God does his best work. You see, comebacks don't happen on mountaintops. They happen in caves. They happen when you're hiding, broken, forgotten, and God whispers, "I'm not done with you yet." Don't you dare confuse a chapter with the whole story. They said you wouldn't make it, but God said, "Watch what I do next." They said you'd never recover, but God said, "I already wrote your resurrection." They said your failure disqualified you, but God said, "Grace qualifies what guilt discredits." The perfect comeback doesn't need perfect conditions. It just needs your willingness to believe that God is bigger than your past, louder than your shame, and stronger than your struggle. It doesn't matter how deep the pit is. God's arm is long enough to reach into the lowest place and pull you out. You might have fallen, but that's not where your story ends. You might have lost your job, but you didn't lose your purpose. You might have been betrayed, but you weren't abandoned. You might be down, but you are not done. Sometimes God will let it get worse before it gets better, not to break you, but to build something in you that success never could, because pressure creates diamonds and fire forges steel. The comeback isn't about where you were, it's about who you're becoming. Don't get bitter in the wilderness when God is preparing you for the promise. See, the thing about a comeback is, it's not just for you. Your story is going to be somebody else's survival guide. What crushed you is about to become what carries someone else. The comeback is bigger than your comfort. It's about your calling. You want to give up. Good. That means you're close. You feel like you've got nothing left. Perfect. That means God can finally show you what happens when it's not by your strength. This is where you stop begging for comfort and start building character. This is where you stop cursing the storm and start speaking to it. This is where you stop asking, "Why me?" and start declaring, watch me come back stronger. Watch me worship when it doesn't make sense. Watch me stand when everything tried to knock me down. Watch me love when it would have been easier to hate. Watch me forgive what should have crushed me. Watch me walk out of the fire without smelling like smoke. Don't you dare count yourself out. The same God who brought Lazarus out of a tomb is the same God who's about to breathe life back into your dreams, your joy, your purpose. It's not too late. You're not too broken. You're not too far gone. In fact, you're right on schedule. This isn't your breakdown. It's your break. Through this isn't your ending. It's the entrance to your elevation, and I don't know what you've lost. I don't know who walked out. I don't know how long you've been struggling, but I do know this. Your greatest disappointment is about to become your greatest declaration. Because when God writes the story, the comeback is always greater than the setback. So go ahead, wipe the tears, stand back up, square your shoulders, and walk back into your life like you already know how this ends. Because you're not just coming back. You're making the perfect comeback. You thought the setback was the end of the road, but what if I told you it was just the beginning of something greater? You didn't see it coming. The relationship fell apart. The job slipped through your hands. The diagnosis crushed you. The silence from heaven made you question everything. You were doing everything you knew how to do, and suddenly the rug was pulled out from under you. But what looks like a breakdown to you might actually be the groundwork for a breakthrough. Your setback is not the evidence of God's absence. It's the evidence of His preparation. He's setting something up that you couldn't have built on your own strength. Because sometimes God has to let it fall apart to build it better than it ever was. You were never meant to stay in the place where life disappointed you. You were meant to rise out of it with new strength, new fire, and new purpose. Pain has a way of getting your attention like nothing else. It strips away your comfort, your confidence, and your control, and it leaves you with nothing but the raw, honest version of yourself. And that's exactly where God wants you, because He's not interested in blessing the mask you wear. He's not drawn to your highlight reel. He moves in the middle of your weakness. That's where His power is perfected. That's where His grace shows off. That's where the setup begins. You thought you were being buried, but you were actually being planted. And what happens underground, in the dark, in the silence, in the struggle, is the place where roots go deep and foundations are built. Every great comeback starts with a moment of collapse. Think about it. If you never lost, how would you know what it means to win again? If you never felt the weight of the struggle, how would you ever develop the muscles of endurance, faith, and character? This isn't just a detour, it's divine direction. God is preparing something inside of you that the spotlight could never give you. And when you walk back into the room after what you've been through, you won't walk in with ego. You'll walk in with authority, you'll walk in with compassion, you'll walk in with perspective, you'll walk in with a testimony, because the platform you're standing on won't be built by success, it'll be built by scars. Purpose isn't born in the applause, it's born in the ache. Pain is the platform for purpose because it teaches you how to lean, how to trust, how to let go of what you thought you needed, and how to hold on to what really matters. Your tears have not been wasted. Your confusion has not been overlooked. God is the master of using broken things to build beautiful stories. He doesn't need perfection. He works best with pieces, and He's not intimidated by your disappointment. He's the only one who can take your lowest moment and turn it into the launching pad for something that will impact more than just you. This is not just about recovery, it's about revelation, because in your setback, you learned what couldn't be taught in comfort. You discovered what really matters. You found out what's fake and what's real. You saw who was with you and who was only there for the blessings. You began to hear God not in the noise, but in the stillness. That kind of clarity can't be bought. That kind of wisdom can't be read in a book. It's forged in the fire. You're being shaped in secret for a purpose that's too big for where you've been. Don't mistake silence for absence. Don't confuse hiddenness with abandonment. God hides you before He reveals you. And what feels like a setback is often a sacred pause, where God is adjusting your heart so you're ready for what He's bringing next. Sometimes the door closes because if it had opened, it would have destroyed you. Sometimes the opportunity disappears because it was too small for the calling that's on your life. Sometimes you lose what you thought you needed so that you can make room for what will actually sustain you. The pain you're carrying today is not punishment, it's preparation. You didn't get disqualified, you got refined. You didn't fall behind, you got aligned. You're not broken beyond repair, you're being rebuilt with divine precision. And even though you can't see it yet, heaven is orchestrating a return that will silence every lie that tried to keep you stuck. This is not just about bouncing back. This is about being launched forward. Because what's ahead of you is greater than what's behind you. The enemy thought this would destroy you, but it's only deepened your dependence, it's sharpened your vision, it's awakened your prayer life. It's crushed your pride, and it's anchored you to the only one who never changes. You're not who you used to be. You're stronger now, even if it doesn't feel like it. You're wiser now, even if you're still healing. You've walked through fire and didn't burn. You've faced storms and didn't drown. That wasn't weakness. That was God holding you up when you couldn't stand on your own. That was grace sustaining you when your strength gave out. And that grace is still carrying you now. So don't let the past trick you into forfeiting your future. Don't let the fear of falling keep you from stepping out again. Don't let the shame of yesterday mute the sound of your purpose. What happened didn't end you, it positioned you. What hurt you didn't disqualify you, it equipped you. And even though it's hard to see it right now, the pain you're walking through has purpose written all over it. God doesn't wait for mountaintop moments to do miracles. He specializes in valleys. He doesn't need a crowd to prove His power. He often works in the quiet places, in the shadows, in the seasons where no one is clapping. and everything in you is questioning. It's in those low places, when the pressure is real, the pain is loud, and the path is unclear, that God begins writing the kind of story you couldn't dream up even if you tried. You don't discover who God really is in the spotlight. You discover it in the struggle. Because when everything is stripped away, and you've got nothing left to lean on, that's where you find out what you're really made of, and more importantly, who is holding you together. Your valley is not a punishment, it's a process. It's where God crushes your pride and exposes your need. It's where He replaces your agenda with His assignment. It's where He breaks what's fake and builds what's real. The valley isn't proof that God has left you. It's proof that He's preparing you. You don't climb a mountain without first walking through the lowlands, and sometimes God walks you through a valley, not because He wants you to stay there, but because He's teaching you how to fight with faith, how to walk without sight, how to trust without answers. In the valley, your prayers stop being cute. They start getting real. In the valley, worship stops being a song. It becomes your survival. That's where roots grow deep, and that's where trust is formed. There's a kind of strength that can only come from weakness. There's a kind of faith that can only come from frustration. You don't get divine revelation on the top of the mountain without first walking through the questions, the silence, and the heartbreak of the valley. If it was always easy, you'd never need grace. If it was always obvious, you'd never need faith. But God hides His greatest work in the places we least expect, buried under pain, wrapped in confusion, and delivered through struggle. Your lowest point might just be the place where God is getting ready to show you the highest kind of power, the power that doesn't depend on what's around you, but on who's within you. The valley exposes every false source of strength. It reveals what you were leaning on that wasn't God, that relationship you thought you couldn't live without, that plan you thought had to go a certain way, that status you clung to for your identity. In the valley, all of that gets stripped back, and when the layers fall away, you discover that if God is all you have, God is all you need. It's in that moment of brokenness that you realize God is not intimidated by your questions, your doubts, or your fears. He's not waiting for you to get it together. He's sitting with you in the dust, whispering that He never left. That kind of intimacy isn't forged in victory. It's born in the struggle. When you're in the valley, it feels like no one sees you. It feels like your prayers are bouncing off the ceiling. It feels like everyone else is moving forward while you're stuck in survival mode. But what you don't see is what God is doing behind the scenes. He's not just watching your pain. He's investing in your growth. He's pruning what can't go with you into the next season. He's sharpening your discernment, deepening your capacity, and anchoring your identity, not in your performance, but in His presence. Because when you walk through the valley and come out the other side, you don't walk the same, you don't pray the same, you don't live the same, you carry something real, something unshakable. The valley is where God shifts your perspective. He shows you that what looked like a loss was actually protection, that what looked like rejection was really redirection, that what you thought was the end was really just the beginning, but you don't see that in the moment. In the moment, it feels like death, like disappointment, like disaster, and that's why God doesn't always explain. He invites you to trust. Trust in the silence. Trust in the confusion. Trust when there's no evidence. Because real faith isn't built on what you see. Real faith is built when you're blind and still choose to move forward. God doesn't rush the valley. He walks it with you, step by step, tier by tier, and while you're begging Him to get you out, He's more interested in pulling something out of you. Not your strength, but His, not your plan, but His purpose, and what's coming out of this valley is going to be far greater than what was lost going in. God is not wasting your pain. He's not ignoring your tears. He's bottling every single one. He's recording every silent cry. He's rewriting every broken chapter, and the valley that tried to destroy you is going to become the very testimony that sets others free. So many people want the power, but they don't want the process. They want the blessing without the breaking, but the oil doesn't flow until the olive is crushed. The wine doesn't pour until the grapes are pressed. And the anointing you carry after the valley doesn't come cheap. It comes through fire, through pressure, through persistence, and what the enemy meant for evil, God is flipping into evidence. Evidence that His grace is real. Evidence that His hand was on you even in the darkest moments. Evidence that the valley didn't define you. It refined you. There's something sacred about suffering when you invite God into it. He doesn't always remove the pain, but He redeems it. He doesn't always change the circumstance, but He changes you in the middle of it. And when you come out of the valley, you don't just have a story. You have a mantle. You have authority. You've walked where others haven't. You've survived what should have taken you out, and now you carry something no one can fake. Proof of God's presence in the lowest places. The comeback isn't about going back to who you used to be or what you used to have. It's about stepping into a version of yourself that could only be formed through the fire. It's not about restoring the old thing. It's about revealing something new. When God allows a fall, a failure, a loss, it's not because He's trying to take something away from you. It's because He's trying to uncover something within you, something deeper, something stronger, something that had to be exposed through pressure. Most people think a comeback is about regaining the past, but the truth is, the real comeback is about discovering your true identity in the middle of pain. There are moments when life will confront you with loss so deep it breaks your rhythm, interrupts your plans, and shatters the image of who you thought you were. It leaves you confused, stripped, and searching. But that space of searching is sacred. That's where identity is refined. That's where layers are peeled off. The comeback doesn't begin when everything is fixed. It begins when you no longer define yourself by what you lost. It starts when you look in the mirror and stop trying to find the old version of yourself, and instead start asking God who He's creating you to become now. You might not even recognize yourself in this season, and that's not a bad thing. Because God often removes the familiar to make room for the extraordinary. Who you are becoming matters more than what you are recovering. You're not meant to bounce back to who you were before the betrayal, the failure, the disappointment. You're meant to rise up with more clarity, more humility, more wisdom, more authenticity. You're not the same person you were before the storm hit. And that's the point. You've seen too much. You've felt too much. You've grown through things no one knows about, and that silent growth is more powerful than anything people can see. The comeback is about identity, not image. God is more interested in who you're becoming in private than how you look in public. Pain has a way of introducing you to the parts of yourself you never knew existed. It exposes what's been dormant. It wakes up what's been ignored. Sometimes the breakdown is the only thing loud enough to reveal the difference between who you pretend to be and who you really are. When the applause fades and the stage is empty and you're left alone with your thoughts, that's where the deeper work begins. You discover whether your confidence came from approval or from presence. Whether your strength was built on people or on promises. Whether your identity was rooted in position or in purpose. The comeback forces you to confront those things, not to punish you, but to purify you. You might have lost the role, but you didn't lose your worth. You might have lost the platform, but you didn't lose your calling. You might have lost the relationship, but you didn't lose your value. What you went through didn't take away your purpose. It just stripped away the illusions that covered it. Now you're seeing more clearly. Now you're not chasing titles or applause or validation. Now you're chasing truth. And truth is where freedom lives. The comeback isn't measured by what you regain. It's measured by what you learn to release. Releasing the need to be understood by everyone. Releasing the need to prove your worth. Releasing the pressure to go back to a version of yourself that wasn't even real. God will often let you lose what was fake to restore what's real. You're not who they said you were. You're not who the failure tried to label you. You're not the addiction. You're not the mistake. You're not the regret. You're not the silence. You are who God says you are. And sometimes it takes falling apart to finally realize that. The perfect comeback is the one where you stop performing and start becoming. Where you stop striving and start surrendering. Where you stop living for the crowd and start walking with conviction. Where you stop needing to have it all together and start embracing the grace that holds it all together. The identity that's formed in the comeback is unshakable because it's not built on things that can be taken away. It's built on truth. It's built on grace. It's built on an encounter with God that wasn't filtered through comfort, but through chaos. And that kind of identity can't be faked. You can see it in the eyes of people who have been through something. There's a depth to them, a strength that's quiet but unbreakable, a joy that isn't loud but deeply rooted. That's what the comeback gives you. It gives you weight, not the kind that burdens, but the kind that anchors. You stop chasing shallow things because you've been through deep waters. You've survived what tried to kill you. And now, you carry something sacred. This season isn't about reclaiming a title. It's about reclaiming your true self, the version of you that's been hidden under expectations, crushed by comparison, diluted by distraction. This is your becoming season, the season where you rise, not because you have something to prove, but because you've finally understood who you are. You're no longer performing for approval. You're walking in purpose. You're no longer trying to fit into the mold. You're breaking it. You're no longer trying to return to normal. You're stepping into new, because who you are becoming is far more important than what was taken. And once you realize that, the comeback becomes unstoppable. You don't need the old stage. You don't need the same applause. You don't need the former affirmation. What you carry now is enough. What you've gained in the valley is what will sustain you in the future. This version of you, the one who wrestled in the dark and still showed up, is the most powerful version yet. You're no longer building from pressure. You're building from purpose. You're no longer obsessed with image. You're consumed with identity. And in this becoming, you're not just coming back stronger. You're coming back real.